I didn't find out my relationship was over because he cheated. I found out because I was being tested. Not accidentally, not impulsively, deliberately, over the course of 3 quiet, calculated weeks. It started with an Instagram message, a random account, a stock photo smile, a bio stuffed with emojis that felt forced, like someone trying too hard to sound carefree. Hey, new to the area. Thought you seemed interesting. I knew within 5 minutes. Not because I'm some tech genius. Not because I'm paranoid. Because when you've lived with someone for 8 months, when you've shared mornings, laundry piles, and the exact rhythm of how he types, you recognize it the way you recognize your own reflection. He always typed defiantly instead of definitely. Always. And there it was. 3rd message in. My stomach dropped. We'd been together 2 years, lived together for 8 months, talked about getting engaged, about a future that felt solid enough not to question. And instead of talking to me, instead of asking me the hard questions, he created a fake man to see if I'd fail. I could have walked into the living room right then. He was on the couch watching TV, legs stretched out, wearing one of my sweatshirts like nothing in the world was wrong. I could have said, "Hey, cute catfish account." I didn't, because I wasn't just hurt. I was angry. Angry that after 2 years, he trusted me so little he needed an experiment. Angry that loyalty, to him, wasn't something you built. It was something you tested like a trap, waiting to snap shut. So I stayed quiet, and I played along. At home, he got sweeter, more attentive, kept asking if I loved him, if I was happy, if I'd ever cheat. Online, he flirted with me under another name, pushed boundaries, tried to lure me into crossing a line that only existed because he drew it himself. Every night I lay next to him, staring at the ceiling, my heart beating too loud in the dark, documenting everything, realizing what I couldn't unsee. See time. This wasn't just insecurity. This was control. And once trust breaks like that, you don't fix it. You expose it, and you walk away. We met 2 years ago in the most ordinary way, through a mutual friend's birthday dinner. No sparks flying across the room. No dramatic first impression. Just conversation that felt easy. He was attentive without being loud, confident without trying to dominate the space. When he asked for my number at the end of the night, it didn't feel like a move. It felt natural. That was always his strength, making things feel natural. Our early months were steady, predictable in a comforting way. Weeknight dinners that turned into shared grocery lists. Weekend errands that slowly blended into routine. He moved in after a year, not rushed, not dramatic. 8 months of shared closets, shared calendars, shared silence that didn't feel awkward. We talked about the future the way responsible adults do, carefully, with qualifiers. Not yet, but someday, eventually, when things settle. There was talk of engagement, not plans, not dates. Just the idea hovering quietly between us, like something assumed. Looking back, that's when the questions started. He needed reassurance constantly, not loudly, not desperately, persistently. Are you happy? You'd tell me if something was wrong, right? You're not bored of me? He liked knowing where I was, who I was with. He'd ask casually, too casually. Who's there? How late will you be? Did you get home safe? If I didn't text back right away, he'd follow up. Not angry, just present, always there. I told myself it was affection. I told myself it was love. There were no blow-ups, no shouting, no accusations, just a low-level hum of surveillance disguised as concern. I didn't notice how much space I was slowly giving up. I stopped staying out late, stopped turning my phone face down, started pre-explaining my plans before he asked. And he never told me not to. That's what made it subtle. We were good on paper. Friends liked him. My family trusted him. He helped around the house, remembered birthdays, showed up when it mattered. From the inside, I felt like I was being evaluated. He talked often about his past, about an ex who cheated, who destroyed his ability to trust. He told those stories quietly, like confessions. I listened. I sympathized. I adjusted. I didn't realize those stories weren't explanations. They were permissions, pre-written excuses for whatever he did next. When the Instagram message arrived, the fake profile, the manufactured interest, it didn't feel random. It felt inevitable. Because someone who believes trust must be tested doesn't actually believe in trust at all. And while I was still living inside what I thought was stable, planning meals, folding his clothes, sharing my bed, he was running an experiment. That's what hurt the most. Not the deception alone, but the fact that while I was choosing him every day, he was quietly preparing a scenario where I could fail. By the time the test began, the relationship was already over. I didn't sleep much the night before Saturday. He did, curled on his side of the bed, breathing evenly, one arm draped across my waist like he always did, familiar, possessive, reassuring in a way that used to make me feel chosen. Now it just felt rehearsed. When morning came, he was relaxed, almost cheerful, made coffee, asked what I was doing later, casual enough that if I didn't already know, I would have believed him. Probably running errands, I said. He nodded. Cool. Maybe we can grab dinner tonight. Like nothing was about to explode. The fake account messaged me just before noon. Still on for coffee? I'm already nearby. I replied with a simple yes. Then I made the call I'd been putting off. His parents answered on the second ring. We'd always gotten along. Holidays at their house, long dinners, conversations about work, plans, the future. I'd helped his father with a home project once. His mother had hugged me goodbye like I was already family. That mattered. Do you both have time this afternoon? I asked. I need to talk to you about something important, about your son. A pause. Is everything okay? His mother asked, concern creeping into her voice. He's fine, I said carefully, but I need you there. Please trust me. They agreed. The coffee shop downtown was busy but calm, the kind of place people felt safe having conversations they thought would stay private. I arrived early, sat at a corner table, ordered water, waited. When his parents walked in, they looked confused, a little worried. His father scanned the room like he expected to see an ambulance or a police officer. What's going on? He asked once they sat down. I didn't ease into it. I pulled out my phone, showed them the Instagram account, the profile picture, the list of followers, his family, his friends, me, the messages, the typo. Your son has been catfishing me, I said quietly, for 3 weeks. His mother stared at the screen. He did what? He created a fake account, pretended to be another man, flirted with me, tried to get me to cheat so he could test my loyalty. Silence. His father's jaw tightened. That's insane. It's manipulative, I said, and I can't be with someone who does this instead of talking to me. His mother shook her head slowly. He never told us. I know, I said. That's why I wanted you here, because he thinks he's about to catch me doing something wrong. I looked at the empty chair across from me. Instead, I'm ending the relationship with witnesses. Right on time, he walked in. No disguise, no hesitation. He probably planned to sit somewhere nearby. Watch. Wait. Confront me when the other guy didn't show. He froze when he saw us. The confusion on his face was immediate. What's going on? He asked. I gestured to the chair. Sit. Why are my parents here? Sit. He did, slowly, eyes darting between all of us. I don't understand, he said. I turned my phone toward him. So the fake man isn't coming, I said evenly, because the fake man is you, and I knew from the first message. All the color drained from his face. The account follows your friends and family, I continued. You used a stock photo, and you typed defiantly instead of definitely, every time. You really thought I wouldn't notice? His mother made a small sound, half gasp, half heartbreak. For 3 weeks, I said, you lied to my face every day, slept next to me, asked me if I loved you, while trying to trick me into cheating on myself with you. He opened his mouth, closed it. I just needed to know you were loyal. By being completely disloyal yourself? I asked. That's not testing, that's betrayal. It's not the same thing, he said weakly. You're right, I said. It's worse, because I didn't do anything wrong. I turned to his parents. I told the fake account I had a boyfriend. I hesitated every step. I never crossed a line. Meanwhile, he chose manipulation over honesty every single day. His father leaned forward. You actually did this? Dad, you don't understand, he snapped. I understand exactly, his father said. You catfished your partner because you don't trust her. His mother looked at him, eyes wet. How could you do this instead of talking to her? He turned back to me, tears forming. I was scared. My ex cheated. I couldn't handle that again. So you created the exact situation you were afraid of, I said. That's not protection. That's sabotage. I love you, he said. No, I said quietly. You love control. I stood up. We're done. I'll get my things while you're at work. Don't contact me. Your parents are here, so there's no confusion. You can't just... I can, I said, and I am. His mother reached for my hand. He's right, she said to him softly. What you did was wrong. There are no sides, his father added. Just consequences. I walked out. My hands were shaking when I reached my car, but my chest felt clear for the first time in weeks. The test was over, and he failed it. I didn't cry when I got into the car. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit there for a full minute with my forehead pressed against the steering wheel, breathing slowly, grounding myself. Shock has a strange clarity to it. Everything felt sharp, clean, final. I drove without music, without calling anyone. Just the road and the steady thud of my own heartbeat. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Not to the apartment where his shoes were still by the door, where his mug sat in the sink like it was just another Saturday. I drove to a friend's place instead, someone who understood that sometimes silence is support. When I finally checked my phone, it had already begun. Missed calls, messages stacking on top of each other. Please talk to me. You humiliated me. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I was scared. You blindsided me. Blindsided? As if 3 weeks of lying hadn't been deliberate. I turned my phone face down. An hour later, another message came through from his mother. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. You handled this better than he deserved. That one landed heavy, because it confirmed what I already knew. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't dramatic. I hadn't overreacted. That night, I slept on the couch, fully dressed. My body felt drained, but my mind wouldn't stop replaying the coffee shop, the silence, his parents' faces. The moment I stood up and ended it. Not loudly, not impulsively, just decisively. The anger came the next morning. Not explosive. Focused. I made a list. What I needed to collect. What could be replaced. What wasn't worth another conversation. I coordinated with his parents so I could grab my things while he was at work. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're exits. He didn't respect them. The messages shifted tone by midday, from apologies to accusations. You led me on. You enjoyed the attention. You let it go on for weeks, as if refusing to cheat somehow made me complicit. I blocked his number. He used another one. Blocked. Then a friend's phone. Your stuff is at my parents' garage. Come get it whenever. Perfect. No contact. No confrontation. Until he showed up at my office. He walked past reception like he still belonged there. We need to talk, he said, loud enough that people looked up. I stood slowly. You need to leave. Not until you listen. My manager stepped out of her office, already reading the situation. I'm asking you to leave, I said again. Calm. Even. Security was called. As he was escorted out, his voice rose, not crying, not pleading, just sharp, angry, accusing. Talking about how I was abandoning him, how I'd blown everything up over one mistake. I didn't respond. Afterward, my manager pulled me aside. X? She asked. Yes, I said. He's not taking it well. She nodded. We'll notify security. He's not allowed back. That night, a video arrived before I could block the new number. His face filled the screen, eyes red, jaw tight, voice strained. He talked fast, too fast, about memories, about how he'd made one small mistake, about how I was being cold and heartless for walking away. No tears, just pressure, just guilt packaged as regret. I closed the video halfway through. Blocked the number. Then his sister called. Look, what he did was wrong, she said, but you're being really harsh. He spent 3 weeks lying to me, I replied. That's not insecurity, that's manipulation. He has trust issues from his ex. That's not my responsibility to fix. You're being cold. No, I said, I'm having boundaries. Silence. The next day I went to his parents' house. His mother met me outside. How are you holding up? She asked. Angry, I said honestly, mostly at myself. For what? For missing the red flags. She nodded. We noticed them too. We tried to talk to him. Inside, as I packed my things, I felt movement upstairs. I looked up. He was standing at the window, watching. He didn't come down, didn't speak, just watched me leave. That night, a message came from a cousin. He wants to explain. He needs closure. I replied once. He needs therapy, not access to me. Then I turned my phone off. For the first time since this began, the silence felt intentional. Earned. But I didn't know yet that this wasn't the end. It was just the moment everything started escalating. I thought distance would cool things down. That once he realized I wasn't responding, once the shock wore off, he'd retreat, regroup, find someone else to absorb the fallout. I underestimated how deeply control runs when it's been challenged. The first few days after I turned my phone off were quiet enough to feel like relief. I focused on work, took longer routes home, slept with the lights on, not because I was afraid, because I was alert. My body hadn't caught up to the decision my mind had already made. Then the messages started again. Not from him, from everyone else. A mutual friend texted, checking in. Hey, are you okay? He seems not great. Another followed. He's saying you set him up, that you played games with him. I didn't respond. By midweek, the narrative had shifted. It wasn't about the fake account anymore. It was about me being cold, unforgiving, publicly humiliating. The part where he created a fake man and spent weeks testing me quietly blurred into the background, replaced with a version where I'd overreacted to a mistake. I heard he'd been calling people late at night, not crying, not breaking down, just repeating the same version until it sounded reasonable. His sister called again. "He's not sleeping," she said. "He's barely eating." "That's unfortunate," I replied, "but it's not my responsibility." "You don't have to be so harsh." "I do," I said, "because every time someone speaks for him, he gets closer to thinking this is negotiable." There was a pause. "He says you enjoyed the attention from the fake account." That one stung, not because it was true, but because it showed how far he'd twist reality to protect his ego. "I told the fake account I had a boyfriend," I said evenly. "Every time. If he's lying to you about that, you should ask why." She didn't answer. 2 days later, he showed up where he shouldn't have. My gym. I was halfway through a workout when I saw him in the mirror behind me, standing too close, arms crossed, watching like he had a right to my time. "Can we talk?" he asked. "No," I said, not turning around. "You can't just ignore me forever." I finished my set, wiped my hands, faced him. "You don't get access to me anymore," I said. "Leave." People were starting to notice. He lowered his voice. "You embarrassed me in front of my parents." "You embarrassed yourself," I replied, "by lying for weeks instead of speaking once. This didn't have to be like this." "You're right," I said. "You could have trusted me." His jaw tightened. I was trying to protect myself. "No," I said. "You were trying to control the outcome." That word landed. He stepped back, eyes hard, like he was recalibrating. "Everyone thinks you're heartless," he said. "Just so you know." "I'm okay with that," I replied. I walked away. The next escalation came from a place I didn't expect. His mother. She called that night, voice strained. "He's not doing well," she said. "He keeps saying he just needs one conversation with you to explain." "I already explained," I said, "at the coffee shop, with you there. He feels like you ambushed him." "Good," I said quietly. "Then he understands how it feels to be manipulated." She sighed. "I'm not defending what he did, but he's spiraling." "I'm not responsible for stabilizing him," I said. "If I show up now, I teach him that persistence works." She was silent for a moment. "You've changed," she said finally. "No," I replied. I stopped accommodating. That night, a letter arrived at my temporary address. 5 handwritten pages. I didn't read it. I photographed it, documented the envelope, the postmark, the handwriting. Because escalation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's meticulous. The next morning, I found out he'd somehow learned about the apartment I was planning to move into. A friend slipped, a casual mention, a name dropped without thinking. He showed up while I was signing the lease. I saw his car through the office window. My chest tightened, not with fear, with resolve. "That's my ex," I told the property manager calmly. "We recently broke up. He's been contacting me despite being asked not to." She looked once, nodded. "Do you want me to call the police if he causes a scene?" "Only if necessary," I said. "But please don't give him any information." She agreed. I went outside. He was already stepping out of his car. "We need to talk," he said, like a script he refused to abandon. "No," I replied. "You need to leave." "I deserve an explanation." "You got one," I said. "Nothing has changed." "You did this in front of my parents," he snapped. "That was humiliating." "What was humiliating," I said, keeping my voice level, "was you lying to me every day for 3 weeks." I was scared. "Then you should have used your words," I said, "not created a fake man to trap me." People were watching. He didn't care. "I can't believe you're being this cold." "I'm being clear." He stepped closer. "I'll do therapy, whatever you want." "I don't want anything from you," I said, "and that's the point." His face hardened. "You're making me the villain." "No," I said, "you're refusing to accept consequences." He stood there, breathing hard, like he wanted to argue but couldn't find an angle that worked. Finally, he turned away. The property manager watched him leave. "That was intense," she said. "Yes," I replied. "Can we finish the paperwork?" That night, his mother called again. "He's threatening to hurt himself if you don't talk to him," she said. I went very still. "Is he in immediate danger?" I asked. "I don't know anymore," she admitted. "Then call emergency services," I said. "Call his therapist, but I'm not coming." "You sound heartless." "I sound like someone who understands manipulation," I replied. "Threats of self-harm are not a bargaining tool, and I won't reward them." She hung up. Hours later, a text came from his sister. "He's in the ER. Hope you're happy." I sat there staring at the screen. Guilt tried to take hold. Then clarity followed. This is how manipulation escalates, by making you responsible for someone else's choices. I typed one message. "I hope he gets help. I'm not changing my boundaries." And for the first time since this began, I understood something crucial. This wasn't about a fake account anymore. It was about what happens when someone loses control and refuses to let go. The quiet afterward was heavier than the chaos. No messages, no calls, no unexpected faces in mirrors or doorways. Just the kind of silence that presses in on you at night, when your mind finally has room to replay everything it's been avoiding. I sat on the edge of the bed in my friend's guest room, suitcase half unpacked, staring at a stack of documents I'd started collecting. Screenshots, dates, times, the letter I hadn't read. Evidence of something I never thought I'd need to prove. I kept asking myself the same question. Did I handle it wrong? Not because I doubted what he did, but because the world around me kept reacting like I'd committed some unspoken crime by refusing to soften the outcome. He hadn't cheated. He hadn't hit me. He hadn't screamed. So why did it feel like I was being punished for leaving? I replayed the coffee shop again. Part of me wondered if I'd crossed a line by doing it publicly. Then the timeline answered for me. 3 weeks of lying, 3 weeks of manipulation, 3 weeks of him watching me answer questions that weren't real, reacting to tests I never agreed to take. The guilt loosened its grip. Barely. The next morning, I got confirmation that I wasn't done dealing with the fallout. A mutual friend called, someone neutral, someone honest. He's telling people you drove him to the ER, she said carefully, that you abandoned him during a crisis. My stomach dropped. So that's the story now, I said quietly. He's saying you knew he was unstable and refused to help. I closed my eyes. The fake account, the office incident, the gym, the lease signing, the threat. Every escalation reframed into a version where I was the trigger. I told his family to call emergency services, I said. That's not abandonment. I know, she said, but not everyone does. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about him refusing to let go. It was about him rewriting reality. By afternoon, I heard more. He was telling people I enjoyed the attention from the fake account, that I let it go on, that I wanted drama, that I trapped him. Each version shaved a little more responsibility off his shoulders and piled it onto mine. I could stay silent, take the high road, hope the truth would surface on its own, or I could stop letting him control the narrative. That decision didn't feel empowering. It felt necessary. I drafted one message, calm, factual, no emotion, no insults. Screenshots attached, dates listed, a short explanation. This is why we broke up. He created a fake account and spent 3 weeks testing my loyalty. I recognized it immediately, documented everything, and ended the relationship in front of his parents so there would be no confusion. Everything since has been his refusal to accept that boundary. I stared at it for a long time before hitting send. To a small group, mutual friends who mattered, people who deserved clarity. The responses were mixed. Some apologized, some thanked me, some said I should have kept it private. But the lies stopped spreading. The narrative froze. That night, moving day arrived. A few friends helped me load boxes into a truck. No big goodbye, no dramatic last look. Just furniture, tape, and the quiet efficiency of people who know when not to ask questions. As we pulled away, one of them glanced in the mirror. He's driving by, she said. Sure enough, his car rolled past the building slowly. Once, twice. Watching. I didn't wave, didn't react. I just turned my eyes forward. At the new place, after everyone left, I sat on the floor with my back against the wall, surrounded by boxes I hadn't opened yet. This was the lowest point. Not because I missed him, but because I finally understood how close I'd come to losing myself trying to be reasonable with someone who was never playing fair. I pressed my palm flat against my chest, feeling my heart steady. This was the bottom, and the only way left to go was up. The shift didn't happen all at once. There was no dramatic epiphany, no cinematic moment where everything suddenly made sense. It came quietly, through exhaustion. After the move, after the messages stopped circulating, after the lies lost momentum, I finally had space to think without reacting. Real space. Walls that didn't echo his presence. A door that locked without tension. Silence that belonged to me. That's when I realized something unsettling. I wasn't recovering from heartbreak. I was recovering from being managed. For 2 years, I'd been adjusting, explaining myself, reassuring, preempting questions before they were asked. I'd mistaken that constant emotional labor for partnership. But love doesn't require surveillance. Love doesn't need tests. Love doesn't punish you for passing. I sat on the floor of my new apartment, laptop open, scrolling through the screenshots I'd taken, not obsessively, clinically. The messages, the timestamps, the escalation. It was all there, stripped of emotion and reduced to behavior. That's when the power dynamic finally snapped into focus. He hadn't created a fake man because he was afraid to lose me. He created one because he needed certainty. And certainty, to someone like him, only exists when they control the outcome. Once I saw that, the guilt evaporated. Not instantly, but completely. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done since the breakup. I told the truth out loud. To a therapist. I laid everything out. The fake account, the escalation, the public confrontation, the rewriting of the story, the ER threat, the pressure to soften my boundaries. She listened, took notes, didn't interrupt. When I finished, she said one sentence that changed everything. "You didn't end the relationship at the coffee shop," she said. "You ended it the moment you stopped negotiating reality with him." That stayed with me, because it was true. Every moment after the breakup hadn't been about reconciliation. It had been about him trying to pull me back into a version of reality where his behavior was understandable, forgivable, excusable. And I had refused. Later that week, his sister reached out again. Not emotional, not accusatory. Measured. "He's in therapy now," she said, "twice a week. Our parents insisted." "That's good," I replied, and I meant it. "He wants to know if you'd do one session with him, for closure." I didn't hesitate. "No. He needs it to move on." "No," I said calmly. "He needs to learn that people he hurt don't owe him participation in his healing." There was a pause. "I think you're right," she said finally. "We should have listened sooner." After that, something remarkable happened. Everything stopped. No more messages, no more drive-bys, no more indirect pressure through family. The silence this time wasn't heavy. It was clean. A week later, I ran into his mother at the grocery store. We froze for half a second, two people who hadn't planned to cross paths but weren't afraid to. "How are you?" she asked. "Better," I said, "truly." She nodded. "He is too. Therapy is helping." "I'm glad," I said. "I'm sorry," she added quietly, "for how we reacted at first. We didn't understand the full situation." "You were protecting your son," I said. "I understand." We stood there for a moment longer, then parted without drama. That was the moment I knew I'd won something more valuable than an argument. Peace. Not the kind that comes from someone admitting they were wrong. The kind that comes from no longer needing them to. The real fallout didn't happen in conversations. It happened in absence. In the way my phone stopped lighting up with secondhand opinions. In the way my name stopped being whispered with hesitation. In the way his stopped coming up at all. Once the truth settled, it didn't need defending anymore. I noticed it first at work. Meetings felt lighter. No more careful glances when my phone buzzed. No more coworkers quietly checking if I was okay in that tone. That really means, is there more drama coming? There wasn't, because drama needs participation, and I'd withdrawn mine completely. A few weeks after the breakup, a mutual acquaintance mentioned, almost offhand, that he'd taken time off work. Not medical leave, not formal, just disappeared for a while. Not my concern. But it told me something important. The version of himself he'd carefully maintained, the reasonable one, the misunderstood one, was cracking under the weight of accountability. You can only hold a story together for so long when too many people have seen the receipts. I also noticed changes in who stayed. Some friends drifted, not dramatically, just quietly. The ones who preferred comfort over truth. The ones who believed boundaries were negotiable if someone was hurting enough. I let them go. Others surprised me. People who hadn't said much before reached out. Not to ask questions, but to say things like, "I didn't realize how controlled you were until I saw you after. You seem lighter. I'm glad you didn't cave." Those comments mattered more than sympathy ever could, because they meant I hadn't imagined the weight. The fallout showed up in smaller, stranger places too. I stopped explaining myself preemptively. Stopped checking my tone for palatability. Stopped cushioning honesty so it wouldn't bruise egos. At first, that felt uncomfortable. Then it felt powerful. I realized how often I'd been managing other people's reactions, especially his, long before the fake account ever existed. The test hadn't been the beginning. It had just exposed the system. And the biggest fallout? It was internal. I no longer felt the urge to check if he was okay. No curiosity about his progress. No need for closure updates. That emotional thread had snapped cleanly. I understood then that closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you reach when the explanation no longer matters. When the why loses its power. When the silence doesn't feel like avoidance, but completion. One night, weeks later, I found an old note on my phone, something I'd written months before all of this. Maybe I'm just overthinking. I deleted it, because the fallout had taught me something permanent. People who manipulate rely on your self-doubt more than your forgiveness. And once that doubt is gone, so are they. The strangest part of all this wasn't how it ended. It was how normal life felt afterward. No dramatic reunion, no final confrontation, no apology that suddenly made everything make sense. Just quiet. Mornings where I made coffee without bracing for questions. Evenings where my phone stayed silent, and that silence felt earned, not empty. Weeks where my energy went back into my own life instead of managing someone else's emotions. For a long time, I thought love meant patience, understanding, making allowances for fear. I was wrong. Love doesn't require you to prove your innocence. It doesn't ask you to participate in tests you never agreed to take. And it doesn't punish you for passing. What happened to me wasn't about cheating. It wasn't even about trust. It was about control dressed up as insecurity. And the hardest lesson wasn't leaving, it was standing still afterward. Holding the boundary when guilt tried to masquerade as compassion. Letting someone experience the consequences of their own behavior without rushing in to soften the fall. I didn't walk away because I stopped caring. I walked away because I finally cared enough about myself to stop negotiating reality. People ask me if I'd date again. Eventually, yes. But I know this now. I will never tolerate loyalty tests. Never mistake surveillance for affection. Never stay with someone who treats trust like a game they're trying to win. Because real partnership doesn't need traps. It needs honesty and courage. He tested my loyalty. What he actually tested was my tolerance for manipulation. And that test, I failed. Happily. If you're listening to this and something feels familiar, if you're constantly explaining yourself, shrinking yourself, proving yourself, pause. That feeling in your chest isn't confusion. It's your intuition asking to be trusted. Thank you for listening to this story. If you've been through something similar, you're not alone. And if you're still in it, know this. Walking away isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the strongest boundary you'll ever set.